free audio post-production by alphonic.com.
The following podcast is a deep, shallow dive production.
And you're going to love it.
Okay, let's go.
I got asked recently what compels me to go back to Gaza. Despite the deplorable living conditions, the dangers, and the targeting of healthcare workers and foreign aid workers, why do I feel the need to keep going back? After discussing it with some close friends, I came to the realization that one of the major reasons why I want to go back is because when you go to Gaza, you're exposed to an unadulterated, raw truth that is very rare in this world. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. And this quality of truth is so addictive that you feel compelled to go back and witness and expose it to the world. What Gaza has done has divided the world into right and wrong. It has separated humanity from politics and religion so easily that you cannot challenge it. And though the Israeli government is very capable of annihilating 2 million people in Gaza, what it cannot take away is the truth that has been exposed as a result of it. And if you're like me, it feels futile at times, and it's very depressing. But we don't have a choice. We have to continue to get louder and to expose the truth, because the people in Gaza are relying on us, and they have no choice but to keep going. So please, don't be silent. Keep going, and don't lose hope.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Happy Tuesday. Yeah, I know that was a heavy way to start. Probably the exact opposite of the interview. If you listen to yesterday's episode with John Weiber, man, that dude was a live wire. But anyway, that was what you just heard was Dr. Mimi Syed. She is the emergency room physician that I interviewed last week that will be airing that episode tomorrow, actually. And she's the one that's been over to Gaza twice. She took out a bullet from a 4-year-old girl's brain, and that child is alive. We talk about that in tomorrow's episode, among many other things. Anyway, I wanted to start out with just a little bit from her because, you know, over the weekend, this is kind of interesting trying to tie these two things together, but I'm not sure if you saw, but there was a tremendous amount of craziness again in Los Angeles. Man, Los Angeles is like having a wild 2025 with obviously all the wildfires in January, which, by the way, that feels like so long ago. Think about those wildfires in Altadena and the Pacific Palisades that happened in January. That feels like it was forever ago. But obviously those, so many people lost their homes and probably are still dealing with things. I'll have to see if I can kind of get an update maybe from somebody either that lives in Altadena or the Palisades and see if get an understanding. Who knows? Maybe even bring somebody on the podcast. But anyway, there was a tremendous amount of craziness in downtown Los Angeles that took place over the weekend in regards to these ICE raids that happened. So here I just asked Gemini. I'm going to start trying to use Gemini a little bit. Let's see how much difference the results come than ChatGPT. But I asked Gemini, again, through the Gemini app. You can download the Gemini app on your phone. Google's Gemini product now has a standalone app for your Android or iPhones. But I said, can you give me a recap of what took place in Los Angeles with the ICE raids and all the protests over the weekend? And it said, here, let me see if I can play their audio clip. Hold on.
Los Angeles experienced significant unrest and widespread protests following a series of immigration raids conducted by Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE. Here's a recap of what transpired. Friday, June 6th. ICE officers carried out raids in heavily Latino areas of Los Angeles, including the Fashion District, Westlake District, and Paramount. One operation at a job site resulted in the arrest of 44 unauthorized immigrants, with another 77 taken into custody in the greater Los Angeles area. News of the raids quickly spread, sparking protests. Demonstrators threw objects at agents and attempted to block federal officials from making arrests. Law enforcement responded with flashbang grenades and pepper spray. Protests also gathered outside the federal building in downtown LA, where detainees were reportedly being held. Saturday, June 7th. Rumors of further raids, particularly at a Home Depot and Paramount, fueled more protests. While DHS later stated it was not a raid but agent staging, the presence of immigration enforcement vehicles caused fear and panic, leading to clashes. President Trump authorized the deployment of the California National Guard to Los Angeles in response to the escalating protests, a move that sparked significant controversy and was opposed by California Governor Gavin Newsom and Mayor Karen Bass.
All right, so that was kind of cool, actually. I wasn't able to download the file, by the way, or like the MP4 file, but that was basically, just so you know how I did that, I put my iPhone up to the speaker, up to my microphone, and then I just played the audio clip through the Gemini app. So anyway, that's kind of what happened. It turned into, I mean, first of all, it was a mess and it was ridiculous. And it gave me actually BLM, Black Lives Matters 2020 vibes, because if you remember, I can't even believe that was 5 years ago. But if you remember 5 years ago, when COVID kicked off, and then all of that, those BLM riots due to George Floyd's death and all that was taking place, again, Los Angeles was like the centerpiece of it. During that one, it was more concentrated in like Santa Monica and Beverly Hills. This one was more in downtown Los Angeles, and then the fashion and garment district, which also is downtown, and then an area of LA called Paramount, which, Paramount's definitely a little more rough and rugged of an area. But basically these ICE aides or raids, I'm sorry, not aides. Well, I guess ICE aides who were doing raids, they went into like Home Depots and just goofy places to like search for, illegal immigrants. And I don't know, man, the situation deteriorated into a complete mess. There were people that were like standing on top of bridges and throwing like cement blocks and things like that on police cars. A tremendous amount of damage to multiple police cars, and the whole situation just deteriorated into kind of a nightmare, actually. I did have one buddy. He's actually a good friend of mine, and I've known him. I've known him through like the boxing circles, and he actually used to be a incredible boxer. Actually, he went to the Olympics. This is crazy. He literally boxed in the Olympics, and so he texted me, and he was like, "Hey, you might want to cover this on your podcast." Which, by the way, I was like, that's so cool. I'm not going to mention his name, but I was like, that's so cool. You thought of me. And that's super cool. You listen to my podcast. So anyway, he sent me a picture of what looked like a pallet of cement blocks. And I was like, what is this? He's like, dude, there are like cement blocks all over, these pallets of cement. What do you call those things? Cinders? Do you call them cement cinders? Is that what you call them? Or cement blocks. Anyway, he said there's these pallets of these cement blocks everywhere, and that's what these people are throwing over the bridges onto the cop cars, which is exactly true, because when I saw the craziness of these people, they were throwing these cement blocks onto the cop cars. So now the question becomes, why are there pallets of these things floating around town or placed around town? And if you remember, which I'm sure most of you don't, during the 2020 BLM stuff, there was a big, well, it wasn't that big because the story was kind of suppressed, but there were pallets of bricks, like bricks everywhere. And then it was those bricks that, those people, those antagonists, those provocateurs, that's what they are. They are provocateurs, used to throw into all of the small business windows and buildings and all that. So anyway, again, I don't know. I mean, honestly, I'm speculating a little bit, but he and I did think that was strange. And again, like I said, he sent me a picture of it, so it's not like it wasn't true. And so in my mind, I started thinking about the situation in Gaza. And then I started thinking about this situation. And, again, I mean, I know some of you think I think everything is nefarious. Actually, there's a few of you out there that I know are laughing right now. But, it's like, I don't know. It just doesn't add up. It doesn't add up. Now, why would they want to create unrest in Los Angeles right now with this whole illegal immigrant situation? Well, I'll tell you why. I played that clip. Did I play the clip from James Lee last week? Hold on a second. Let me look. Man, you gotta love that deep shallow dive search feature. Okay, I just looked. I did play James's clip, but that was in relation to Elon and the Epstein files. Let me see if I can find his clip that he talked about this.
I'm about to say some pretty unpopular things, starting with this is not good. Also, this is not a peaceful protest. But something very disturbing is happening in the background that I think you should know about.
All right, he's about to read a tweet from this lady, Laura Loomer. I don't know if many of you will know who she is. She's a super right-wing. She's kind of a lunatic, actually. I think she said some things I like over the past few years, but she's also she's very right-wing, a little too right, lunatic. So give this a listen. This is the tweet that Laura Loomer said, and it involves Palantir.
It's time to deploy Palantir to Los Angeles to deal with the illegals. You know you love to see it. You're lying if you say you wouldn't. This is the grand plan. Okay, it's not an accident that cars are burning on the streets and people are waving foreign flags on the streets. There is something they're trying to manufacture consent for.
All right, let me interrupt a little and just inject a few things. First of all, there were cars burning on the streets. And by the way, that stuff is ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. I'm not an advocate of any of that stuff. These definitely were not peaceful protests. But I don't think the people doing the real damage were really the protesters. I mean, I think it's like these agent provocateurs and these antagonists that are part of like that group Antifa, or, a lot of people say this guy, George Soros, is the one funding all this stuff. He's kind of like a left-wing liberal globalist. So his name gets thrown in the mix a lot. But again, the point is that it's mayhem and it's havoc, and there were people, riding around motorcycles with the Mexican flag on. And by the way, once again, everybody's masked up. They've got bandanas wrapped around their face so they can't be seen. Now, maybe that's obviously a safety precaution, but again, I don't doubt the potential of this stuff being staged. And really where James is going is, if you stage such atrocities, then people are going to be okay with implementing this Palantir kind of surveillance system. And it starts with, hey, we've got to get a handle on these illegal immigrants. But once that's done, or once it's initiated, that's going to extend to everybody. And it becomes kind of a backhanded way to implement this this system of, quite frankly, governmental control over all of us. I mean, again, I guess for those of us that don't do anything wrong, we're, many people could probably be like, I don't really care. I don't do anything wrong anyway. So if they want to have surveillance over me, that's fine. I'm not doing anything wrong. But it's a slippery slope, man. I don't think you want to go down this route of allowing for too much surveillance, man. That's kind of George Orwell 1984-ish.
Remember, when they justified the passing of the Patriot Act over 20 years ago, they told us we needed all this extra power to go after the bad guys, to get rid of the terrorists. But almost immediately, the government started to use that extra power they were given to spy on ordinary Americans, right? How can you be so sure that you will not be deemed an enemy of the state one day? There's absolutely no guarantee that this master database won't be weaponized against you. And to be perfectly honest, history tells us that the likelihood is pretty high that it will be used against you one day. So to quote RFK Jr., 1, any power that the government takes from the people, it will never return voluntarily. 2, every power that the government takes, it will ultimately be abused to the maximum extent possible. 3, nobody ever complied their way out of totalitarianism. The only thing we can do is resist. Be careful out there, people.
I seriously love James. You guys should follow him. His handle on Instagram is the numbers 5149 James Lee Li. So again, 5149 James Li. He's really good. I'm going to actually reach out to him right now and see if he wants to record again. Damn, he told me to fuck off. That was harsh. I'm just kidding. I don't drop the F-bomb that much on this show anymore. Actually, I don't think I've ever really dropped the F-bomb all that much. Do I drop the F-bomb in real life a lot? Yeah, I do. I'm actually a very good curse word user. I know when to use curse words to make them effective, but not sound vulgar. How about that? Like, I feel like that was a good use of the F-bomb. All right, let me move on. Okay, let me play you a couple other things. I do want to play a couple clips from Gavin Newsom. This was an interview he did with this guy, Alex Michelson from Fox News. Now, here's, what's happening with this is it's becoming kind of a twofold situation. It's becoming the let's say Mexican population of Los Angeles, which by the way is absolutely enormous, versus, ICE doing these raids. What does ICE stand for? U.S. Immigration and Customs. Okay. It really should be ISAC, but they call it ICE. Oh, I guess it's immigration. Okay. U.S. Immigrations and Customs Enforcement. So ICE, Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE. Okay, got it. All right, so what's happening is there's really two things. There's the Hispanic population in Los Angeles versus ICE, but then now it's President Trump versus Gavin Newsom and Karen Bass, the mayor of Los Angeles, whom, if you recall, I was pretty critical of as to how really both of them dealt with the wildfire situation. But let's listen to a couple things. The beginning got cut off, but Alex says President Trump came out and warned you.
Came out and said that when you guys spoke, he warned you that if you didn't get things under control, he was going to bring in troops.
Stone cold liar. Stone cold liar. He made that up, like he makes up so many other things. He never said that.
And he also seemed to make up this idea that the National Guard did a great job last night when they weren't here.
They weren't even deployed, and he claimed victory. He's lost it. He hasn't lost a step. And I saw him trip on the steps today. I mean, this is serious. He is not the same person that I dealt with just 4 years ago.
He's not the same person as he was pre-inauguration, Shucky Ducky, quack, quack.
And he's incapable now of even a train of thought. He's making things up, and he's putting people's lives at risk. And he's got a band of people that are complicit in this. And that's what's so damn alarming. And we need Congress to step up, and my gosh, do we need the courts.
All right, so obviously Gavin Newsom was super harsh in that. I will say, though, something was off about his body language. Obviously, you guys can't see that through this audio. But, his anger level and body language, I don't know, it just felt a little bit contrived, to be honest with you, especially considering the way he was. If you remember during the wildfires, I played clips where it almost, and I talked to you about how he was like dancing around and moving a lot with his hands and all that. Anyway, a totally different demeanor during this set of interviews. Now, again, I mean, different situations, different time, different everything. So, I don't discount that, but I don't know. Something felt a little bit strange when I watched this interview. Now let's listen to another clip from this. And this is where the reporter kind of talks about these agitators. This was actually interesting.
I've seen agitators getting in the way of some of these ICE agents who are trying to do their job.
Hey, these sort of anarchists.
What should happen to them?
They should be arrested.
Yeah.
They should be called out. We condemn that destruction of personal property.
Basically, you said that if you go out and do violence at this point, you're giving Donald Trump what he wants.
You're handing it to him. So stop. These guys, these idiots that are jumping up on cars, that are burning these Waymos, these people, that's a disgrace. Mm-hmm. And the impact they're having on our democracy, there's a lot at risk here. I mean, this is not just a simple act of disobedience. They should be arrested. They should be held accountable. Anyone who attacks any innocent person, including a law enforcement person that's lawfully doing their job, they're members of our community just like everybody else. They go to the same churches. They're good human beings. Mm-hmm. And just because we don't like Donald Trump, just because we don't like their orders, doesn't mean you have the right to hurt or harm people. And that goes for them as well.
All right. Again, there's like two storylines here. One is the storyline of ICE agents versus, let's say, the illegal immigrants and all that. Now, again, I mean, the places they went and raided, it's not like they were in some drug warehouse. Like, supposedly they raided a Home Depot. By the way, I don't know if this is actually, I'm sure this is not the case in the majority of the country, but in Southern California, basically around many Home Depot stores, well, it used to be like this. I don't think it's like this anymore, especially since they're raiding them. But for example, when I needed to move, or there were a few different times where, I kind of needed some help with certain things. If you drive by a majority of Home Depots in Southern California, I mean, this was definitely the case pre-COVID, and I think even to an extent post-COVID once things started getting back to normal. But for example, you drive by a Home Depot, there's going to be 15, 20, sometimes 30 Mexican day laborers that are just standing outside Home Depot. And so one time I needed help moving, so I pulled up, I chatted with my ghetto Spanish with them, grabbed two of the dudes, gave them a banana and a protein drink, and we ended up moving one of my warehouses to another warehouse. Seriously, it was great. We actually had a super fun day. Although I think I tore part of my distal bicep that day. I'm not even kidding. I actually have a complete tear in my bicep. My right bicep is no longer connected to my elbow. It's not fun. More on that during another episode. But anyway, these day laborers, they're fantastic and they work incredibly well. And I don't remember what I paid them. I think I paid them like $20 an hour or something along those lines. But the point is, I'm sure most of them were undocumented, illegal, and again, around the Home Depots and probably the Lowe's and maybe a few different other places in many cities of Southern California, you're going to have dozens of day laborers that basically stand around outside hoping for people to, pick them up and give them work for the day. And again, it's honest work. They're super nice people, but obviously chances are they are undocumented and here illegally. And so you've got that one storyline of ICE versus them, but the bigger storyline, well, not the bigger storyline, but the other storyline is really Gavin Newsom and Karen Bass versus Trump. And so what does this mean? Does this mean Trump basically wanted to send, or I think he did send 2,000 of the National Guard. So like he federalized the National Guard. I don't really know what that means. I don't know if that means that this is the National Guard on a federal level, and then is there National Guard on a state level? Here, let me answer that. All right, my dog, CGPT. I said, is there National Guard on a federal level or a state level? I'm trying to understand the actions of President Trump in Los Angeles over the weekend. And so ChatGPT said, here's the breakdown, no sugarcoating. Dude, it's so zesty with me. National Guard, dual control explained. State control. Title 32 or state active duty. Governors activate the Guard for natural disasters, civil unrest. Guardsmen operate under state law enforcement powers not bound by posse comitatus. I don't know what that is. And then it says, example, California governor could deploy National Guard for wildfire response under state authority. Okay. Then it says, in terms of federal control, this is referred to as Title 10. The president, via the Secretary of Defense, can federalize the Guard used for war, overseas missions, or enforcing federal law during emergencies. Once federalized, they lose state commander oversight. Okay, then it goes to say what Trump did in LA, why it's a big deal. Over 6 decades, no president has federalized a state's National Guard without the governor's approval. The last president was Lyndon B. Johnson in 1965. By the way, I'm doing a deep dive on Lyndon B. Johnson. That dude was horrible. Okay, on June 8th and 9th, President Trump ordered 2,000 California Guard troops and 700 Marines into Los Angeles to, quote, protect federal property, unquote, during the anti-ICE protests without Governor Gavin Newsom's consent. Legal experts and former Guard leaders slammed the move. Retired Major General Randy Manner warned it tramples the governor's rights and undermines civil liberties. NPR and The Guardian called it unprecedented and legally questionable. California then on Monday sued the Trump administration, calling the federalization unconstitutional and a breach of state sovereignty. Bottom line, the National Guard is dual status, usually under your governor at a state level unless federalized. Trump invoked Title 10, not the Insurrection Act, thus bypassing Gavin Newsom. This triggered a constitutional clash, state sovereignty versus federal emergency powers. Anyway, these guys, man, it's just the drama is unnecessary. And I have to say, in this situation, you know, like I said, I talked about my buddy earlier who kind of was I don't think he was directly in the mix with all that stuff, but he definitely was close enough to a lot of it. And when I looked at the videos on Instagram, you know, the videos that are super up close, they look like it's just chaos and pandemonium, and they look like it's just like Armageddon. But when you look at videos that are zoomed out a little bit, and especially the ones that are like drone footage zoomed out, you realize it's like 50 people or like 75 people, or in some cases even less. Now, don't get me wrong, there were a few videos where it looked like there were a lot more people than that. But then other videos that, again, when you look at them from a zoomed out perspective, you realize it's not that many people causing all the havoc. And so the only reason I point that out is in that situation, you know, I don't think President Trump needed to do what he did. It's like, let the state, let Governor Newsom and Karen Bass deal with it. You know, this stuff was kind of happening in real time. So let them deal with it. And then obviously if it gets crazy out of control, that's one thing. But I don't think it had gotten that point. So anyway, it's like, where are the adults, man? I'm serious. I think this is just unnecessary. It's unnecessary to let's just deal with the ICE versus the immigrants. Let's not have to deal with Trump versus Gavin Newsom and Karen Bass. But they do, you know, they've made it personal, especially those three coming out of the California wildfire situation. If you remember how contentious those meetings were between Trump and Karen Bass and Gavin Newsom, and how contentious it's been between Gavin Newsom and Trump these past 4 years, which is funny because they've got some serious points of connection. Gavin Newsom was married to Kimberly Guilfoyle, who then dated and got engaged to Donald Trump Jr. Here's the timeline. Kimberly Guilfoyle married Gavin Newsom in December 2001. She served as San Francisco's first lady until their divorce in 2006. After divorcing Newsom, Guilfoyle married some other dude from 2006 to 2009. Wow, she got remarried fast. Okay, and then in 2018, Guilfoyle began dating Donald Trump Jr. They got engaged in January 2022. Their engagement ended sometime in 2024. Okay, so she didn't get married to Donald Trump Jr., but she was engaged to him. Anyway, I guess that's not a big deal. I'm sure those people all kind of run in the same circle. So anyway, all right, you know what? Let's discount what I just said about that and just chalk it up to me giving you some TMZ dating info. All right, anyway, the situation in LA, let's see if it's something more. Let's see if like they invoke martial law or something. I will tell you, if martial law or something kind of out of a movie happens where they clamp down, let's say there's curfews or something. I don't know. If that happens, I think maybe we have to think this is something more than what it is, but let's see what happens. Oh, what I wanted to, gosh, at the beginning of this, I talked about the LA situation and then the Gaza situation. You know, the only thing I'm thinking in terms of relating it to the Gaza thing, and it's not really directly relating it, I seriously don't understand how this war, and I use that term so loosely, I don't understand how it's even still going. I mean, Hamas is like nothing. Like their entire leadership organization or leadership team has all supposedly been killed. It doesn't sound like they don't have, where are their weapons coming from? I mean, people say they're coming from Iran, but you can no longer get them through Jordan or Egypt. So how are they even getting weapons? Like, they just seem like a big nothing now. And then here's the other thing. I was having this conversation yesterday with somebody, and that is, October 7th was a horrible day. And even though the initial death toll was said to be 1,600, then they revised it to 1,400, then they revised it to 1,200, and it's pretty much stayed at that 1,200. Now, again, just to be clear and just for the record, that's 1,200 too many in my book, whether that's soldiers or especially innocent civilians. That's 1,200 too many people that should not have died that day. That's absolutely unfortunate. But it's not like, actually, I'm not going to say any but to that. That's absolutely unfortunate. Hard stop, move on to the next. Post October 7th, so think about it. Over the past 2 years, there's really not been another attack. Now, again, there have been certain times where missiles supposedly have been fired, but you really haven't heard of any additional death toll. And again, thank God, I'm glad about this, but you haven't heard of any additional death toll among the Israelis outside of the hostages that have said to have been killed or that have been killed. And so, that's pretty wild. Like, what kind of war is this where, Hamas had like a 1-day attack and they've never really attacked since then. So it just makes me think like, I swear I think they're fake. I really do. Now, the guy I was talking to was actually a Palestinian doctor, and I'm going to have him on, but what's interesting is he is heading over to Jerusalem in the West Bank to volunteer at a hospital. And he said, hey, why don't you wait till I'm in Jerusalem at the hospital, and then that way we can record from the hospital. I was like, okay, that sounds amazing. But I asked him pretty straight up. I'm like, listen, I think they're fake. I think they're the boogeyman. I think they are, something in order to have an enemy. And, he didn't really agree. He said, I see why you think that, but there's more to it than that. Anyway, maybe we'll talk about that during the episode. Okay. Let me see. Oh, to finish on that, my point is, I honestly think if the Israeli military and government wanted to do whatever they want to do. They could do it in a second, man. They are powerful. But it's like they're just dragging this thing out. Like it's just like it's like a slow burn, you know? Maybe that's a great way to describe it. It's a slow burn. And maybe that's on purpose. Maybe by having a slow burn, you just have a continued war. You can continue to get money. You can continue to have, you know, whatever crisis you're manufacturing. And let's see if that plays out with this Los Angeles stuff. Let's see how long this continues for and what happens. Okay, let me see. I know we're at 35 minutes, but let me see if there's anything else I want to play. All right, you know what? I won't play these clips. I'll save them probably for Thursday's episode. But this was interesting, and I'll just leave you with this. Over the weekend, J.D. Vance, Vice President J.D. Vance, went on the Theo Vaughn podcast. And then at the same time, FBI Director Kash Patel went on Joe Rogan podcast. And so both of those released on Friday. I did listen to J.D. Vance on Theo Vaughn. I'm going to try to pull some clips from that because I had some interesting observations there. I'll try to listen to Kash Patel on Joe Rogan as well, and I'll talk about those on Thursday. All right, that's it, everybody. Call a spade, call your parents. Tomorrow's episode will be with Dr. Mimi Syed. I think you're really going to enjoy it. It's very, very, I mean, it's a little bit heavy, I'm not going to lie, but it's very truthful. And again, just to set the stage, she has no skin in the Palestinian game. She really doesn't. She is just a medical doctor. She's actually originally from Pakistan, so she's Pakistani, and she's just a medical doctor that wanted to help. She felt compelled to help, as have so many of these medical doctors. So again, she has no skin in that game. She just felt her, I don't know, what's that medical oath that they take, the Hippocratic oath to help humanity. And so that's what she's done twice. So anyway, enjoy that for tomorrow. I'll be back on Thursday, and call a spade, call your parents, and that's it.
That was a great way to end it.
This episode was brought to you by the new book, Deep Shallow Dive Into You, available now on Amazon and Barnes & Noble in hardcover and paperback. Don't forget to sign up for our new mailing list on our website at deepshallowdive.com.